Good afternoon, everybody out there. This is Arjax coming at you with a new tanking video. Sorry I was delayed in the last one from this one coming out. I have a bunch of these recorded and it's just been a little time consuming for me to get them rendered over and adding the audio to them. So the ads here are pretty straightforward. The one thing that you really need to keep in mind is that the majority of these ad groups will have casters in them. And so you either need to counterspell them or stun them or get close to them and pull them together. You see here that I didn't do a really good job of grouping them up. I held the aggro on them so it was acceptable, but I would have really liked to get them in a group so that my AoE presence would have been there to help down them a little bit quicker. Overall, not hard to do. So as you can see here, most of them are most of these ads groups are going to have casters in them. So unfortunately for that, I pull them smaller than I'd normally pull because I don't want the casters breaking off and attacking other members of the group. So I tend to pull these groups a little bit smaller because I know there are casters in there. And as you can see here, I'm still attempting to put the ads back towards the other party members to maximize that DPS. I know that it doesn't, I don't really know what effect it has on low level content like these dungeons that I'm running here, but I know that it does play a factor in end of game content, and I just like to maintain the good tanking habits that I have, as I do have plenty of bad ones that I try to mitigate. Everybody in this dungeon is pretty good. I really enjoyed the healer. He was able to keep me up very well the entire game, and the DPS are doing a decent job. We're running through this fairly quickly. So as you can see here, another caster, another group of casters in the ads. So I just down these and then I move on to the next ones. But that's something that I always find a little tricky about casters, is to pull them. I know you can use a line of sight pull, and I do in some dungeons, but as you can see around here, there isn't a whole lot of opportunity to do line of sight pulls. So as you can see there, the healer's becoming a little impatient and running ahead. We're doing really well in this dungeon. It kind of irritates me when people do that to the tank. It makes me feel like I'm not pulling fast enough, but you know, it is what it is. If it was an issue, I would say it. I try not to get too caught up in what everybody's doing, unless it's going to affect the overall performance of the party. I try to keep the peace. You know, a lot of things irritate me. I just try to keep it to myself, which is a pretty good idea, especially at these dungeons right here. If you're tanking these, you're going to notice at about level 60 a increased queue time for tanks, because that's the starting level for DKs is at 55, and every one of them wants to run dungeons. So at 55 is really the only point where you're going to see a lot of queue time for tanks. Normally it's pretty much instantaneously, but everybody's like, oh, I got a level 55 character now that can run as a tank, so let's do it. Not making fun of any DKs. I actually really love my DK class. I enjoy them quite a bit. I think it's one of the most fun tanks in the game, actually, is Death Knights. But all the same, you get a lot of inexperienced tanks, or you know, just inexperienced people running as tanks at around 55 to about 70. At about 70, it dies down and it goes back to normal queue times for tanks. But you're gonna so about this level, you know, I definitely don't want to make the healer mad. I don't want to delay my leveling progression any, so you know, I just keep my little gripes to myself, and you know, he's doing a really good job. So So what you saw me doing there, I was checking the value of the item and seeing if it would be more beneficial to greed on it, to vendor trash it, or to disenchant it. it appeared that the disenchanting value would be more for it, so that's what I went ahead and did. There's advantages to that and disadvantages to that. The primary advantage to that is it's going to be worth more. The disadvantage to doing it that way is if you vendor trash it, that's instant money, whereas you have to put it onto the auction house and wait for it to sell the other way. And sometimes my auction house prices aren't as up to date as I'd like, and I find out that I actually make less money by disenchanting. But I mean, it's nothing serious to do, so it's just what I do sometimes if I notice that we have an enchanter in the group. So these skeletons, they're pretty easy. It's very, you know, like you just saw, I pulled the entire room almost. There was no casters in the group of skeletons. They're straight melee, so it's really easy to group them together and pull them. So, and they're not all that tough, and it's a pretty good idea to pull them all together. Now you're going to see me here. I'm going to pull these guys, and I'm going to down them pretty much before moving on. The majority of the reason why I want to do this, like I've stressed, is the casters. I could have line of sighted pulled them off to the corner there, but to what advantage? I wouldn't have been able to go all the way down here. The healer here, he's going to ask me to pull big groups, and I don't really pull as big as I'd have liked, or probably as much as he'd have liked, but my primary concern is making sure all the aggro's on me and that other people in the groups aren't taking damage. So I don't want somebody to get killed because I'm trying to appease one other person in the group. I still want to maintain my job. I do try to pull a little bit bigger here, but at the same time, you know, I'm not going to sacrifice the performance of my role to appease somebody. I know that might sound a little like high and mighty, but at the same time, you just don't want to fail at your job. So I would have liked to pull that big group. I just didn't feel like I could have held the aggro. So this is the last boss. Then again, you know, I faced him towards the back of the group. The rogue is not taking advantage of what I did there. And I know rogues do get bonuses from hitting in the back. I don't know if they just didn't understand their class or they didn't really care. But as you can see in the bottom right, I did the most DPS in the group, which is disappointing. I like it when the DPS does better than me, but it is what it is. So if you like my video, please comment below, like, subscribe, and have a great day. Arjax out.